Defense Priorities and host of Daniel Davis Deep Dive on YouTube, retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis. Lieutenant Colonel, always great to see you. So this ceasefire is happening, at least as of right now. We know Palestinians are returning. What is life, though, going to look like? Where does the rebuilding and recovery even start?
Well, that is one of the bigger questions that's going to have to be asked. I was watching some of the scenes of these folks going back to their homes right now, and it's as jubilant as you can imagine. And I was a little bit surprised, I have to admit, because I thought, well, they would want to go back, but they would, be discouraged when they basically see a lot of rubble and dust where their homes used to be. But they have been through so much, and from their perspective, just going back into their areas is a huge victory. And they haven't been driven off their land. And a lot of this, I think, is speaking to some of these things that Trump has been saying about, like that soundbite you just played about clearing out the Gaza Strip or so. They don't have any interest in going anywhere else. And I think that they're going to do everything that they can to stay there as well. And we can get into this, I suppose, but I'm not sure that that's the best thing for Israel, for the Trump administration, or for anybody else in the region, quite frankly. And I really doubt that that's going to happen.
Okay, well, yeah, because I do want to talk to you more about that. I mean, because, the president, in reference to Gaza, said, quote, clean out the whole thing. We know Elise Stefanik has said she believes the West Bank should go back to Israel. Lieutenant Colonel, how could the U.S. influence all of this? What could we potentially see here? What do you think we will see?
Yeah, listen, I think that if Trump and his senior advisors start getting into the nuances and the second and third order effects of various actions, I think they're going to see pretty quickly that that's not a path that we want to go down. I mean, you have first of all, just the legal issues. You have the human rights issues. You can't just take people out of a territory and force them to go anywhere else. If you want to give them an option and some choose to go to, that might be a separate issue, but it looks pretty likely that they're not going to choose to do that in large numbers because they consider that their homeland. But if anybody wanted to go down that path of forced relocation, and certainly there are some in the Israeli government and other portions of the Israeli society that do want to do that. But listen, that could potentially destabilize Egypt. That could destabilize the Jordan and their governments. And I don't think that the Trump administration is going to risk destabilizing those governments that right now are very key to U.S. interest in the region, keeping things stabilized. President Trump has further said that the Abraham Accords are a priority for him. He wants to expand on what happened before. If these people are physically relocated, I think you can forget about anything with Saudi Arabia, especially, who does want to improve relations, but that's going to have to come at the cost of taking care of the Palestinian peoples on their territory.
All right. So, Lieutenant Colonel, speaking of destabilizing, President Trump has also lifted, then President Biden's hold on these 2,000-pound bombs going to Israel. He's saying that they can now go there. Talk about the strategy. What does that mean in the midst of this ceasefire?
Well, listen, I got to hope that that's just talk. Because, I mean, we're just looking at this from a military perspective. There is nothing that those 2,000-pound bombs do that's going to have military utility for the IDF. I mean, you see, these images you've shown are a complete moonscape in very large portions of the Gaza Strip, largely without the 2,000-pound bomb. So they're not needed by any stretch of the imagination to go in. And one of the reasons why they were withheld in the first place is because you can't even claim that, any kind of intelligence-driven operations would lead you to strategic or surgical strikes, because the explosive power is so great, you would just wipe out a whole swath of territory on there. So that kills too many innocent people, and it doesn't do anything militarily. So I hope that that's just a lot of talk, or if it is, I hope that they don't actually use them, because all that would do was complicate things better and kill more innocent people.
Do you think this ceasefire holds?
Gosh, I sure hope to. I mean, you and I have been talking about this for many, many months, and I've been hoping that it would. I had reason for optimism to think this one was going to work through, mainly because, in my view, the Israeli side needed the ceasefire more than even the Palestinian side did, and that's why it's gone through so far. But you have the problem that there are many in the Israeli government and senior leaders within Israel who are saying that their objective is still to destroy Hamas. And it is self-evident that Hamas has not been destroyed, but it should also be self-evident you're not going to be able to kill your way to victory if 16 months of this incredible devastation has still left Hamas something close now to rebuilding in their pre-2023 power. That should tell you that you're going to have to find another path. If Israel keeps going down that path, they will still fail to bring peace to their people.
Well, last question for you, and kind of piggybacking off of that. I mean, what does this mean, do you think, for the wider region?
Well, the wider region, and they have been emphatic about this for many, many months, actually since the beginning. They want this issue resolved. They want to see a ceasefire hold and lead to a peace agreement between the parties. Many of the Arab nations, most of them, in fact, have said that they desire to improve relations with Israel. They want to continue to make things better in the region. But they have to have a path to the Palestinian people having any kind of prospect of having a land of their own. They can't just remain forever in this, what some have called an open-air prison of Gaza. You can't go back to the status quo before 10/7 and think that you're going to have a different result going forward. Something has to happen for them to have a negotiated settlement, or the region is going to stay chaotic and volatile.
All right, we will certainly see what happens. Hopefully this ceasefire does hold. Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Well, coming up.